Greetings and welcome to In-Depth. I'm Dike Rostant. Question though, who has signed MOUs with TCL and NGC? SWMCOL. Who is looking at ways that we can innovate waste management? SWMCOL. There is a great deal more that the Trinidad and Tobago Solid Waste Management Company Limited is doing, and corporate communications specialist Selma, Elie, she joins us to share some insight into their efforts.
Wait now. Is litter you litter in there?
There's one bottle, I just one thing.
Small thing can litter big thing. Like flooded.
Bring in rats, roaches, and flies.
Yeah, I don't want to get sick. We can make a difference by planting trees.
Using reusable bottles.
And bags.
Keeping our country clean.
If we all do our part to keep our communities clean and green, we could make a huge difference.
Join the revolution. Make a no pollution resolution.
And remember to reduce, reuse, and recycle.
We are Earth Defender!
Yay! For more information on how you can be an Earth Defender, visit us on swmcol.co.tt. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Look out for us coming to your school soon.
So we're looking at Earth Defenders and so much more. Thank you so much for joining us, Ms. Elie. But before we start though, give us a definition of what is integrated waste management?
Integrated waste management is exactly what the name says. It's an integrated approach or a multi-pronged approach that looks at how we manage our waste. As you know, waste management is everybody's business. And there's another saying that goes, it says, one man's trash is another man's treasure. So at SWMCOL, we understand that it's the perspective that makes all the difference. Once we see waste as a resource, which is what it is, it's a misplaced resource, we would understand the value that we can derive from it. And so that integrated waste management system allows us to look at different ways we could manage our waste and, of course, get the value out of those resources.
So if we look at if we hold fast to that saying that one man's trash is another man's treasure, what are some of those gems that we can pull from the year prior, 2022, in terms of achievements undertaken and achieved by SWMCOL in this past year that we can move forward to influencing further actions?
I love the way that you phrase that question, because it's all about what we take out of the waste, the value that can be added to not just our lives, but to our industry, which is the recycling industry, the waste management industry, and of course, to Trinidad and Tobago by contributing positively to this country's GDP. So when we talk about waste management, we're looking at it across the board. So you've heard us say it several times before, that 85% of what goes into our landfill sites can actually be diverted. And what that means is that 85% of material, that 85% of resources can be applied in other areas and other industries. And that's exactly what we are looking to do here at SWMCOL. Our strategic plan 2021 to 2025 is entitled Pathway to Sustainability. Now we understand that we are walking along a road to get to sustainability. That's the ultimate goal. And so along this road, we will take different strides and achieve several different things to get to this goal. So when we're talking about waste management, this does not stand by itself. As you know, Vision 2030 speaks about placing the environment at the center of all that we can do. And we're looking at all the ways in which Trinidad and Tobago operates. And so once we understand that and we implement those things, we also see it mirrored in our roadmap to recovery and also other government policies, like the National Environmental Policy. So these are the policies that we're looking at. These are the frameworks that we're working with to move together and to push Trinidad and Tobago to that zero waste target that we're going for. Of course, there's a lot of talk about the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and all that we are doing aligns to those goals. because what we want to do is to bring the waste management sector in Trinidad and Tobago up to the international standards. And that's why you would see us getting involved in several different projects with some key stakeholders in several areas, both locally and internationally.
And you speak of those stakeholders, and who are some of the people helping in terms of trying to reduce that 85% that can be going elsewhere? What are some of those steps being taken to divert waste?
That's a very long list, and I'm pleased to let you know some of our stakeholders. So as you know, waste diversion is actually one of the pillars in our strategic plan. And what we're looking at doing is not simply to divert the waste to move it away from the landfill, but rather to use that material to generate new products, new services, to enhance the processes that different organizations may use in the creation of their products. And so by that, I am automatically talking about NGC. So as you know, methane is one of the natural byproducts of a landfill site. Once waste is rotting or it's deteriorating, it would create that gas. Now, what this partnership with the National Gas Company does is that it takes into consideration the natural occurring gas that is just a regular part of landfilling, and it utilizes that in a way that is great for the environment. So what that does is it creates the biogas, CNG, and of course, you know, we have many CNG vehicles here in Trinidad and Tobago, and that, of course, can go towards fueling that. As a matter of fact, the study conducted with UTT and the National Gas Company and SWMCOL has indicated that over the next 20 years, we can produce up to $35 million in CNG. Now, when you consider the cost of that oil and the creation of it as opposed to other types of oil, you could now see that that's a favorable option for Trinidad and Tobago. Of course, what this also does is by using this type of fuel, it's also better for the environment holistically. So that's what we're talking about. We're being good to the environment by correcting some of the things that we're doing, by being more sensible in the way that we operate, but we are also contributing to our GDP by finding innovative ways that we can use waste management.
You have me interested about that. Is it a matter of cordoning off part of the landfill to grab that gas? Does that gas need to be scrubbed, cleaned? Does that include a player like PPGPL, Phoenix Park Gas Processors Limited? What are some of those things? Let's take a little dive into the MOU now. Not too far down, but just a little more.
I can't tell you that we are at the beginning phases of the MOU. So after the first year of this agreement, we have found that this is feasible. This study is feasible. I've just given you the figures. $35 million over the next 20 years. What I can say to you is, I would love to have a conversation with you and some of the scientists and engineers at CNG so that they can explain the process. I do not think that I would do it justice because they would explain how it is broken down and the good that it does to the environment. And of course, this is just one area that SWMCOL is managing its waste. As you know, we've been talking about the engineered landfill site. This engineered landfill site is proposed in the Forest Park area. This
just before you start to give us the lowdown on that engineered landfill site, we take a short break. We come back so you can give us that holistic answer. Thank you. Stay with us. We'll return with more.
Hi, my name is Ronaldo Pierre from Hardcore Recycling. What does empowering sustainable communities mean to me? Well, it's all about sustainable waste management because we do not want the wider population to believe that recycling is just for these larger corporations. We want everyone to get a hands-on approach and bring recyclable materials into our companies. Our recycling division, we actually have two companies. We have Eco Impact and New Age Recycling. At New Age Recycling, we focus mainly on waste paper. So that includes your office waste paper, your cardboard, even your cereal boxes and shoe boxes. We also do plastic PET bottles, aluminum cans, and Tetra Pak. At Eco Impact, we're currently doing waste vegetable oil and use lead acid batteries, and soon to be tires. Look out for that.
Hi.
So we're looking out for that. But before that, though, we're speaking with corporate communications specialist at SWMCOL, Ms. Selma Elie, and you were going to tell us about the engineered landfill site. You said it's at Forest Park. So you give us
Yes,
you
it
give
is.
us that, and then we will talk about that responsibility. So that was just intimated in terms of whose responsibility is it to actually prevent things from going into that landfill site, engineered or otherwise.
No problem. So, as you know, SWMCOL has been talking about the engineered landfill site. And what this does for Trinidad and Tobago is bring us on par with best practice across the world. It now gives us the facility and the ability to manage our waste a lot more effectively. So we know that there are different types of waste. What persons may not know is that everything does not go anywhere on the landfill site. The waste is separated. And so some of the waste is also treated, and depending on the type of waste, it is not accepted until it is treated by the responsible organization. We can get to that a little further on. But what this does is allow us to manage our waste effectively. And so quite a bit of work has gone into this project. For example, you have the typograph and the typographic test and also the hydrographic test. You also have the draft cadastral survey. You have the geotechnical survey that would have gone into place. You have traffic flow surveys that would have gone into place. All of these things we need to take into consideration when engineering this landfill site. As of 2010, Trinidad and Tobago generates 700,000 tons of waste a year. So when you think about that quantity of waste coming into the landfill site, you would understand why all of these tests are necessary, why we need to understand what type of waste is coming in, how to treat that waste, and what it also does is allow us to identify the types of waste that can be recycled.
And when you speak about hydrographic tests, that also makes me want to ask whether or not there's a barrier that prevents leachate, so that things that are coming out of that waste matter don't find themselves back into the water table and therefore into our systems.
Definitely. So leachate, just like methane, is a natural occurring substance. So once you have waste that is starting to rot or starting to degrade, it would release some type of water. That water is what we would call leachate. So when you have a quantum of waste, you can expect quite a bit of liquid to be released. Now, what SWMCOL also has is leachate treatment ponds. Now, as you know, if that waste gets into the soil or gets into water courses, it can be a potential risk. And so what those leachate treatment plants do is mitigate against that risk. And it's interesting that you would ask me that question, because SWMCOL happened to partner with UNIDO, which is the United Nations Industrial Development Organization. And what that project did was actually focus on the remediation of the Guanaco landfill site, focusing on leachate and how it would affect the soil and the water around it. And so, of course, that project is entitled the JEF 558 project. It is funded by UNIDO, and it is championed by the BCLC, which is the Basel Convention in Trinidad and Tobago. So we are working with quite a number of organizations, and we are looking at this thing holistically. Remember that word we used when we started, when we said integrated. It means that we are pulling all of the studies in terms of environmental studies, in terms of engineering, and we're pulling it together and finding the best ways that we can serve Trinidad and Tobago by managing its waste properly.
And what are some of the other ways that SWMCOL is helping to foster innovations in the way that we manage that waste integratively?
I like the word you use there, foster innovation. And that's exactly what we did through the Future Proof Conference. And so what that does is open the door and start to open those conversations for like-minded persons who are interested in waste management to come up with innovative ways in which they can be the solution to this problem that we have. And so what it also does is open up the conversation for persons to get funding, for persons to get additional support, for them to be directed to the correct sister agency who might be able to fund or further guide or to move this thing along the process. We have been saying for quite some time that waste management is everybody's business. And so therefore, if we want to foster this recycling industry, which happens to be worth millions of dollars, according to US published newspapers, we have to consider different ways that we manage our waste. Like we said before, one man's trash is another man's treasure. So if we look at the trash as the resource, then we can see the goals that can come out of it. And that's what we're talking about. Again, we're not looking at these solutions for now. We are thinking down the road. There's a North American proverb that speaks about borrowing the earth from the generations to come. We didn't inherit it. So with that thinking, we are now thinking forward. We are now future-proofing Trinidad and Tobago by looking at different ways that we can be innovative with our waste management. How can we introduce other players into this industry? How can we benefit from other players who are in the industry, for other persons who may not be in a field like waste management? For example, the National Gas Company is in the oil and gas field, but yet still there's an opportunity for them through waste management. And that's what we want to do. We want to foster those conversations. We want to get people thinking about sustainability. We want to start having those conversations about circular economy. We want to have our citizens living within the donut and not on those extremes when it comes to sustainable living. And that's what this is all about. And again, it lines up with United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which countries all around the world have already agreed to, that these are the rules, these are the ways that we are going to implement. These are the areas that we're going to focus on to have better life for us as citizens of this planet.
And with that, and speaking about those conversations, we still have to talk to the scientists that you're going to hook us up with to have those conversations. We are going to be talking about the need to get younger persons involved in the conversation. So you have that tree that is young, so you don't need to try to bend it while it's older. In terms of the Chase Charlie campaign, we're also going to be talking about the MOU with TCL. So I have those bullet points down, but we want to thank you so much, Selma Elie, Corporate Communications Specialist, giving us an idea of what are some of the things that SWMCOL has been involved in. And on behalf of the entire TTT News team, I'm Dike Rostant. This has been In Depth with me. Thank you so much for joining us.